This episode is brought to you by the Shop 1 in 5 Pledge. We believe that when you purchase from a small online or offline business, your dollar goes further. Hey friends, Mina and I created the Shop 1 in 5 Pledge, and we're inviting you to take it with us. It's a commitment to make 1 in 5 of your purchases from a small business, online or offline. It's a way to make an impact together where and when it matters most. Because the truth is, your purchasing power matters now more than ever. Head to shop1in5.com to take the pledge. Make that commitment to shop 1 in 5 of your purchases towards a small business. We also invite you to shop the directory if you don't know where to find other small businesses. It's right there on the page. And we're asking for you to share the pledge. Imagine if each of us told 3 to 4 people about the Shop 1 in 5 pledge. It would be an incredible and life-changing for so many small businesses. Tell your friends, your family, and your social network. It costs nothing extra and makes a world of difference. Our purchases have the ability to change lives. Okay, let's jump in.
Welcome to the Product Boss Podcast, where we help product-based businesses grow their sales and improve their strategies.
Hey everyone, I want to introduce you to my co-host and biz bestie, Mina Kunlo-Sitep, an Amazon guru that has built a multi-6-figure product-based business.
And introducing the other half of the Product Boss, Jacqueline Snyder. She has helped launch and grow over 500 fashion apparel and accessory brands, even one of her own.
And together, we share our inventory of secret weapons that will help you dig deep and do the work it takes.
Are you ready? Let's build together.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Product Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Jacqueline Snyder, with my awesome co-host, Mina Kunlo-Sitep. Hey, Mina.
Hey, Jacqueline.
All right, friends. So we have kicked off our workshop series. This is an incredible series. We're so excited. We've met so many new product-based business owners. We have our multi-stream machine students in there, our masterminders. And so if you haven't heard about it just yet, we have the Product Boss's Guide to Getting Holiday Ready. It is our exclusive free workshop series to help product-based business owners prepare for their busiest time of year. So make sure to go to the show notes, click the link, get signed up. It's totally free. You still have access to our very first workshop was Take Your To-Do List to Done, where we shared the 6-step done process for getting the 6-step, done process for getting more done in less time. And we are getting so much feedback that people are loving it.
Right. They've already gotten their time back now.
Oh, yeah. And then this week is the Maker's Guide to Scaling, where we're going to teach the secrets to scaling your handmade product business, which is what inspired this episode, where we're going to talk about debunking the myth around makers scaling their businesses, because we've heard all sorts of sayings, my maker friends.
Yeah. But before we get into the episode, I want to make sure that for all of you that are in the workshop series, whether you're a manufacturer, a reseller, even if you don't hand make your businesses, all of these concepts are really foundational concepts that you need to know in order to scale your business in an easy way. So make sure you show up. We do it in a really fun way, and we want to see all of you there. So we are super excited for that.
And it's totally free. So let's work together. Free. Mina and I are in there live. Like, we get to work on your businesses together. Let's do this. So, all right. So the myths. So what are some myths you've heard like from makers? Because I think about 50% of our audience are actually makers.
Yeah.
So what are some things that, one thing everyone, that makers got to make, right?
Yeah. Makers gotta make.
And we could take it a step further. Makers got to make with their own 2 hands.
Or else they've,
I don't know. They've like shunned the community and they're like being sent to
They've betrayed their souls or something, So makers got to make, and that really becomes a limiting belief that they have. And we've done an episode about this before where we talk about the limiting beliefs of makers. It was a super popular episode because there was a lot of people that resonated with that. They had that struggle of understanding, like, what is it that I need to do as a mental shift in order to be able to grow my business? Because I'm the only one holding myself back.
Another one is makers can't be millionaires. I've heard that one too, where it's like, there's no way. Like I think it feels crushing if you say like, would you like $1 million business? And a maker's like, oh, no. Like, it's a physical reaction because they're like, how could I ever? Like, I don't have enough hours in the day to make $1 million worth of product to sell, right? $100,000, $1 million, whatever that revenue number is. People freak out when we talk about scaling their businesses because they're so afraid that it's going to cripple them, that it's going to take them out of their life, that the reason they became business owners in the first place was so they could have the freedom of their schedule. And this is actually going to take that all away.
Yeah. So I think we should focus on those two, because those are really like the crux of what we're talking about. They're really the things that hold people back. So the first one was makers got to make, and I got to make with my own two hands. And we want to debunk that
I need to make
first.
Everything. All
or
of it.
else, they will not be considered a maker.
Right.
And so I think that the first part of that, makers got to make, everything is handmade.
Yeah, people, coming from fashion, I'm a fashion designer. I've produced over like 1,000 different startup fashion brands, if you don't know that already. And the thing is that people are like, well, I want to be a handmade fashion business. Okay. And then I question them back. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, well, I want it to be handmade. I'm like, well, I manufacture. So I've manufactured apparel, and it is handmade. It's just not your own two hands.
Right.
There are other people out there, either whether they're cutting with scissors or they're cutting with a machine. Or their
tool is a machine.
Yeah. But still there's a human being operating it. If there's sewers and sewing factories,
they're not using just a string and a needle. They're using a sewing machine.
Yeah, but there's a human being with two, maybe two hands, like there's somebody behind there sewing your stuff. And I did domestic manufacturing. So everything was made in the US. We were employing our neighbors and our community, but it was at a bigger scale, right? Versus you maybe sitting at home in your studio or getting a sewist that's down the street. So whenever I'd love to challenge whatever, business you're in, whatever you make, to think about that and think like, yes, okay, so I'm going to go back to candles because we love to go to candles. Yeah, there are big facilities that maybe have candles that are like on one of those like manufacturing plant, like
assembly line,
thank you, that maybe has something that squirts the wax into the jar and then a label maker thing. There are still people making it, right? So maybe that's not handmade. Maybe it's not hand poured candles, but do you know how many big businesses that I buy candles from that say hand poured candles?
Yeah.
That is a person. There is a human being that you've employed to help you make that.
Right. So I think it's just asking yourself why you're so attached to that. Do you feel like there's an identity thing? Are you going against everything you believe? Because there is really this core of it where as a business, you will need to figure out a way in order to make money from your trade. And as a business, you just need to figure out how to make money. And your goal is to make money. Yeah, and that is okay.
Otherwise, go outside your house right now, take your candles, your jewelry, your clothing, your pottery, whatever it is, and just go hand them out to everyone walking their dogs. Just go give them away. Or would you like to exchange that? Would you like to have some sort of exchange for money, which is typically why we've all started our own businesses, is that we would like to make our own revenue, to pay ourselves salaries that we maybe wouldn't get in, working for somebody else. To make our own schedules. And how do you make your own schedule? So we talked about this the other day.
Yeah.
The craziest thing about entrepreneurs is that we leave 40-hour careers. We're like, we don't want to work for the man or the woman, right? Like 40 hours a week, like whatever. I want to make my own schedule. Hands up if you're like us, where it's like you leave that 40-hour job just to take on a 120-hour job, which is your business, right?
For sure.
But how do you get that freedom of time? You need to scale, and we have a whole episode called Scaling Handmade, but to buy back your time eventually will be that you scale in different ways, whether you hire a team member or you outsource a component of it. We have an entire episode dedicated to this, plus this workshop on like sharing more secrets on how to scale your handmade business. But that's how you get your time back, right? Because time is a limited resource. You can always make more money, but time is limited.
And we're not talking mass manufacturing here. There's plenty of businesses that are small batch, but they understand pricing. They understand sourcing their raw goods. They understand getting to a certain point where there's, a certain portion of your product line that has to be this way or another one that has to be this way. They're not so attached to only one way, only with my hands, only like this, and I think that is really a myth that people tell themselves, is that it can only be done this way.
Right. So I want you to take a breath, friends, because I remember when Etsy started, the rule was it had to be handmade. Like it had to be your own two hands. Like you couldn't have anything manufactured. And also like people now sell other things on Etsy, and they've even changed it.
Yeah.
There was no way. We work with the top 1% of Etsy. Some of our students and some of our masterminders, we have students in multi-stream machine that are top 1% of Etsy that have come over because we're helping them scale their handmade businesses on other platforms, right? For more profit. We have masterminders that started off on Etsy that, became the top 1%. We have someone, right now we have Copper Hummingbird, who Etsy's promoting her stuff everywhere. She's like, top of her category. And she's there and she's doing such a great job and she's a handmade business, but she needs help. Right. And Etsy knew that too. Like Etsy wants to make money. They make money off of all of your businesses.
That's why they promote her. They know, they're not doing it for Nancy. They're doing it for themselves.
Yeah. They're like, she's selling well. Oh, let's promote her so we can make more of that 5% of the revenue that she makes. Right.
Yeah. But the thing I love about Nancy and Copper Hummingbird, as we were talking about, she's our masterminder, is that she didn't let that Etsy mindset determine what she was going to do. She's working with us to help scale her business. And it's outside of that myth that a lot of Etsy people start with and they continue on with always. Has to be made by my own two hands, always in this one way.
And this isn't to say that we don't, when we do our lives with our multi-stream machine students, or when we go live every week with our masterminders, and we're all on video on our masterminds. And it's not to say that we don't see all of them working while they're listening, right? You've got Etsy curling.
They have the time.
You got Nancy curling wires around her hands. You've got Brooke knitting hats. You have people, it's not to say that they're not all still making, because there's still a component, especially of our masterminders that are handmade businesses that, they are scaling and they haven't hired all the team members yet. It takes a while, a long while to get there where you pull yourself out of some of the doing and you step into that role of CEO or boss of your business. But they're not doing it all anymore. Like they're able to have like $500,000 businesses, $250,000 businesses, $1 million businesses, multi-million dollar businesses. We work with people who make between $2 to $10 million. Still completely handmade businesses, but you bet your bottom dollar that the owner is not the one making $10 million worth of product with her own two hands.
Not by themselves, certainly.
No, she's got a team and she's able to employ other makers.
Probably not her entire product line either.
And what's cool about that is and we've heard this from our masterminders specifically, is that what's so exciting is they're able to employ other makers that can do a trade or a craft and they're able to an art, and they're able to give them jobs. Just like Pet Paintings by Nicole.
Yeah.
She's a painter. She does custom pet portraits and she's done so amazing. She's a multi-stream machine student now in masterminds with us. And she's been able to scale her one of a kind, you send in a picture of your dog, she'll paint them on some Vans for you.
Or a jean jacket.
She's still painting, but she's able to hire production artists to help her get components of it done so that she can scale.
Right.
Hey, Product Boss. Can you believe it's already time to start gearing up for the holiday season?
The busiest time for Product Bosses is coming up fast, and we want to help you get ready to make it your best one yet.
Because if you're being honest and we're being honest, right about now, you might feel like you hardly have enough time as it is. How are you supposed to fit 100 hours into 40? How can you get all the things done?
You're not sure your business can handle the influx of the holiday season. You'd love to scale, but how are you supposed to do that? Especially if you're making everything yourself.
And you're not even sure what to focus on. Which products should you be highlighting? How many do you really need? Is there a way to scale without offering 100 options? And spoiler alert, yes, there is.
Well, you're not alone, friend. So many product bosses feel this way, especially toward the end of the year, and we're here to help.
That's why we created our upcoming free workshop series, The Product Boss's Guide to Getting Holiday Ready. We're hosting 3 free workshops where we're sharing some of the biggest tips and tricks on how to prepare yourself and your business so you can make the most of the profit pop at the end of the year.
We want to help you gear up for the busiest time of year so you can crush those goals and make your holiday season the best one yet without the overwhelm, because we know you want to enjoy the holidays too.
So head to rockyourholidaypromotions.com/free-workshop. And yes, that's a mouthful. So the easier thing to do would just be click on the link in the show notes. And let's gear up for the end of the year together.
What was the second myth that we went over?
Makers cannot be millionaires, which we also just went through a little.
Yeah, this one is always a big one.
I think because it's also overwhelming.
Yeah, they've never seen it. I
Mhm.
think a lot of people are like, I've never seen a maker be a millionaire. It's impossible. Like it's like a unicorn,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. And you know why you haven't seen it? Because you haven't been in a community surrounded by other makers that
Yeah.
are making money, right?
Yeah. You're not looking in the right places.
Because, and I think that's a big reason. I think that's a huge thing that our students say, especially the multi-stream machine students, because that's initially their first way that they're working with us
Yeah.
outside of our free workshop series or our challenges. And they're finally surrounded by other product bosses from
Right.
all different ways. Like we've got manufacturers in there, retailers, makers, all different types of businesses, which is incredible because they create their own little pods within multi-stream machine.
Yeah.
They encourage each other, they share stuff, and then they finally feel like I'm not alone in how I feel about this. I'm not alone in my approach to this. When they kind of go, a lot of them go out of multi-stream machine and enter into our masterminds. That's when we kind of really dig into numbers and we're transparent and we share. And then, we have different revenues in there, and we have, people who are just under $100,000 all the way to like $15 million businesses, and they get to kind of peek behind the scenes and see how they've grown.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like the law of exposure, right? You really are confined to what you've been exposed to a lot of times, unless you take the step towards seeing what else is out there. Are there different ways? Are there people doing it in this way? Think of like the Olympics, right? The Olympics is going on. And there's people who are interested in pole vaulting, and they start working on it, and then they get to a certain level because they work on it by themselves. Then they might get a Olympic level coach. Right? Usually you start with a regular coach and then you get Olympic level coach. Then that coach helps them to a certain extent. And then that coach helps them get around other Olympic level pole vaulters. So imagine like the up leveling each other and just being exposed to that. That is the best in the game in a way, right? Like they're the people that have really committed to being better and improving at what they're doing.
And I think it's hard because sometimes, and especially I'm going to just say it, like women and women in business, there aren't always a lot of examples out there like to follow. I think we're seeing it now that people are becoming more transparent with how they got there. Like we like to talk about Sarah Blakely with Spanx, because she really was very transparent about her growth and her struggle and like how she
selling
built this
Spanx
empire
out of her trunk of her car.
Versus like those of you that are in Rocker Holly Promotions Challenge with us, and you've done challenges, I like to reference back to Juicy Couture and the two women that started that. Well, that was a huge, at least in the fashion industry, that was huge when they were bought out. They sold the company. I think it was like $200 million. Like, I don't know, it's probably 20 years ago.
Yeah.
No.
Which is equivalent to $1 trillion now.
$100 trillion. But they sold it. But you know what? I don't think that they've ever, and you guys can let me know if I'm wrong on this, but I don't think that they've ever shared that story on how they did it. Yeah. And what it took to get there and how they leaned into their bestseller and like, which was that, velour tracksuit that a lot of us had if you're my age. And how they did that, and then how they got approached. We had Jamie Kern Lima on, who has been so transparent when she built she wrote the book Believe It, and she talked about her mindset and her journey and her struggles with growing the business with her husband and how she did actually sell it for $1 billion.
Yeah. So she started It Cosmetics. So she really was transparent. And it really gives you an example of what can be done. One of our biggest liked, shared, commented quotes on Instagram was, "She's not your competition. She's proof that it can be done." I think we all have to keep that in mind when we're starting to feel like it can't be done, or that we're starting to feel like they had something special that I didn't. A lot of times when people don't share transparently, you're looking at Juicy Couture, you're looking at Sarah Blakely, you're like, they got something that I did not have. Yeah. And so unless they're transparent, you don't realize those are ordinary people. Sarah, Jamie Kern Lima was working out of her living room and had $1,000 in her bank account. She talks about this in her episode with us. So make sure you guys go listen to that. But really, she started right where you are now. She made it into what she did. So it can be done. And it takes a woman sharing her story in order for other women to know, wow, I can't believe that it can be done. They didn't have all these special things. They started with the same struggles that I did.
Right. And you want to surround yourself with that, which is really actually the whole reason Mina and I started the Product Boss, was to create community around product-based business owners. So with that said, I think another thing to think about for those of you out there that are not makers, right? Maybe you're a manufacturer, you're a retailer, all these other things. So if you listen to Jamie Kern Lima, right, and you listen to her, yeah, no, she wasn't mixing foundation in her kitchen and pouring it into tubes. She decided to manufacture. So I don't know if she shares that exactly, but like how she ended up, creating the formulas, but she did that and she manufactured.
Mm-hmm.
She still used up all the hours in her day.
Yeah.
Plus some, right? She still hired her friend and her husband was helping her and all these things. And she was still using her two hands to build this business.
Mm-hmm.
So take the word out of makers and just think, it's the product boss, right? Debunking the myth.
Debunking the myth.
I was trying to say maker at the same time. All the words came together. But the idea here is it's just debunking the myth that product bosses can't scale their business, right? That product bosses are that it's hard as a small business building a business out of your home, that you may never get to that revenue level or that salary that you've always dreamed of taking home and all of those things. And there's just the possibility is endless. You just need to be shown examples of it. And how do you get shown examples? Well, you join communities like ours, right?
Yeah.
You get into this workshop series and you're part of this workshop and people are going to talk about how they've done it. You listen to this podcast and the interviews that we bring to you.
And you share it.
And you share.
Because makers going to make around a lot of other makers. So if you know that that's a thing that happens with a lot of people, which we for sure see it everywhere, in the maker sphere, in the manufacturing sphere, in the reseller sphere, is that we all need to know we can make $1 million. Even if you don't want to make $1 million, you can if you wanted to.
So I've got the new things for you guys to put in your head, right? Mm-hmm. Makers got to make with help, right? Makers got to make with help. Makers can be millionaires with help.
Yeah.
Right? Go get help. Go take a course, join one of our courses, be in our free workshop series.
And be helpful.
Help
there's
each other.
Another maker out there, you say, listen to this podcast. Yeah. It would be great. It's for makers, manufacturers. It's for product bosses.
Right. Get in communities. Be around people that get you, what else? Like hire people when you need help, especially we're heading into the holiday season. You may end up asking, getting temporary help for the season. But what I think that the gist of this is that you can do everything. You can't do it all at once, and you don't have to do it alone. And that's why you're here with us, right? So if you have liked this episode and you are loving it, make sure, my friends, to join our free workshop series. Remember, it's the Product Boss's Guide to Getting Holiday Ready. It's our exclusive free workshop series to help you, product-based business owners, prepare for the busiest time of year. This is it. We're here. We're in it with you. There is going to be some crazy spending at the end of this year. Consumers are going to be buying, and are you ready for it? So make sure to sign up for the workshop series, totally free. And when you do, you will also get access to Rock Your Holiday Promotions Challenge, which starts on September 13th. So we'll see you inside.
Yeah, we'll see you inside.
Thank you for being here and listening all the way through the Product Boss podcast. If you love our show and it has helped you in any way in your business, would you mind doing 2 things for us? Subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review. Reviews help other product entrepreneurs know that this is the place to be to grow their businesses and realize that they're not alone. And we know that you all know that a 5-star and honest review helps you sell more products to more people. So you know that your reviews help us reach more listeners around the world. Remember, what we give is what we receive, and we are all about helping each other in the Product Boss community. We are all in this together. We would be so appreciative of you if you could take the time right now to subscribe, leave a review, and even share this episode on social or someone you know so we can impact more lives. And remember, subscribing means that you will get notified each time we release a new episode so you never miss a thing. You have helped us grow and climb into the top 10 of all marketing podcasts, and together we can keep climbing. Thank you, friends. And remember, there is room at the top for all of us. This episode is brought to you by the Shop 1 in 5 Pledge. We believe that when you purchase from a small online or offline business, your dollar goes further. Hey friends, Mina and I created the Shop 1 in 5 Pledge, and we're inviting you to take the pledge with us. It's a commitment to make 1 in 5 of your purchases from a small business, online or offline. It's a way to make an impact together where and when it matters most. Because the truth is, your purchasing power matters now more than ever. We're inviting you to take the pledge if you head to shop1in5.com. The link is in the show notes. And when you get there, please make sure to share the pledge with your friends, your family, and your customers. Let's invite everyone to take the Shop 1 in 5 pledge so that we can all use our purchasing power to change lives.